Before the world knew the name Genghis Khan, he was just a boy called Temüjin, born in the frozen wilderness of Mongolia, in a world ruled by hunger, betrayal, and blood. This is not merely the story of conquest. It is the story of how one outcast boy forged an empire out of dust and fury, and changed the course of history. This is History Unsealed. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Because the past isn't gone, it's waiting to be uncovered. The 12th century Mongolian steppe was a battlefield without borders. Tribes roamed like storms, raiding and vanishing. No kings, no cities, only survival. Temüjin was born into this chaos, the son of a tribal chief, yes, but the world gave him nothing. When Temüjin was 9, his father was poisoned by enemies. His family was cast out. His mother, Holan, and her children survived on roots and small game, abandoned by their clan. Temüjin learned early that mercy was weakness, and loyalty had to be earned in blood. At 13, he killed his half-brother over food. By 15, he was captured and enslaved by a rival tribe, chained, beaten, and left to die. But he escaped. And from that moment, he swore that no man would ever chain him again. Temüjin began to rebuild, not through wealth or fear, but through trust. He sought warriors who believed in something greater than tribe, loyalty to the man, not the bloodline. He offered protection to the weak and reward for courage. And little by little, the scattered sons of the steppe began to gather under his banner. By his 20s, Temüjin was already a storm in human form, quiet, cold, and deliberate. His greatest weapon wasn't the sword, it was his mind. He reorganized his followers into units of 10, 100, 1,000, loyal to him alone. It was the birth of an army built not on kinship, but discipline. The tribes called him ambitious, dangerous, unnatural. But the truth, he was inevitable. Then came betrayal. His blood brother, Jamaka, once his closest ally, turned against him. The steppe burned with civil war. For years they hunted each other, burning camps, enslaving families, killing friends. When Jamaka was finally captured, Temüjin faced the man who once shared his dreams of unity. Jamaka asked for death without shame, and Temüjin granted it. He was learning that empire is not built on friendship, but on fear and order. By 1206, all the tribes of Mongolia had bent to his will. On the shores of the Anan River, they crowned him Genghis Khan, universal ruler. He was no longer a wanderer. He was destiny made flesh. The new Mongol Empire moved like thunder across the world. Their horses carried death farther and faster than any army before them. Temüjin's code, the Yasa, demanded loyalty, justice, and absolute obedience. Thieves were executed, spies rewarded. Under his rule, a poor shepherd could travel from one end of the empire to the other without fear. His enemies called him a monster. His people called him the law of heaven. In 1209, he struck west, against the Xia kingdom of China. His tactics were unlike anything the world had seen. He used false retreats, smoke, and speed to crush armies 10 times his size. Cities fell one after another. The world began to tremble at a name it could barely pronounce. By 1211, he invaded the Jin dynasty, a superpower with walls stretching for miles. Temüjin's horsemen rode through mountain passes, across deserts, through snow. They burned cities, captured fortresses, and slaughtered entire garrisons. But behind every act of destruction was a brutal logic. Obey and live, resist and be erased. The Jin emperor fled. The Mongols took his capital and filled it with silence. But Genghis Khan's hunger was never for land alone, it was for legacy. He wanted to unite the world under one rule, one law, one destiny. He turned west toward Central Asia, Khwarezm, a rich Islamic empire of trade and silk. He sent envoys to open peace. The Khwarezm Shah killed them, and in doing so, signed his own death sentence. In 1219, Genghis unleashed vengeance on a scale the world had never seen. His armies moved like ghosts, swift, merciless, unending. Cities that resisted were leveled to ash. Rivers ran red for days. It was said that not even dogs barked when the Mongols passed. But amid the horror was order. Merchants were protected, messengers could cross continents. The Silk Road flourished under the very empire built in blood. The Mongols reached as far as the Caspian Sea, crushing armies from Persia to Russia. Every banner that fell added to the legend. Every empire that resisted added to his empire's strength. Yet for all his power, Genghis remained haunted by the ghosts of his past. His father's poisoning, his mother's hunger, the loneliness of command. In his old age, he prayed not for conquest but for purpose. And in 1227, during a campaign against the Zaizia, the man who ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen died. His death was hidden from the world for months. Even his burial place remains a mystery. No monument, no tomb, just silence. But his legacy would live for centuries. His sons and grandsons continued the storm, riding west into Europe, east into China, south into Persia. They built cities, libraries, and roads on the bones of kingdoms that once mocked a shepherd boy from the steppe. Empires built on blood do not last forever, but they reshape the world long after the dust settles. From the ashes of tribes, Genghis Khan forged a nation that stretched from the Pacific to the Black Sea. He connected worlds that had never touched and set fire to the idea of the impossible. And though centuries have passed, his shadow still rides the wind. Because some empires die, and some never stop conquering. If you believe the past still burns within us, subscribe and join us at History Unsealed, where we bring back to life the stories that shape the world.